I can't promise you that our next conversation is going to be a far cry from that same result at the end of it, but we're going to try, because one thing that Dr. Manyasa asks us to do often is to be positive about certain things, but taking into the consideration the reality of our times. The state of education is what we're looking at this hour, and teen pregnancies and school unrest is the sub to that, and we'll look into some of those things that are going on. But Dr. welcome to the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you.
And we look through and say, this is a situation, what then should it mean? The USAO agenda has been giving us some interesting reports over the last couple of months, and that will probably feed into some of the things that we are looking at today. But before we do that, as you know, we go around the African continent every week. This week, we find ourselves in Eswatini, the Kingdom of Eswatini. And the proverb for today, which we'd love to get your interpretation of, goes talking about... I guess you'll tell us what you think about that proverb. Of course, we know that it's one of the last few kingdoms on the African continent, looking at how they rule between modernity and cultural traditional ways of doing things. But this one is interesting because it helps us to look at perhaps certain life lessons. The roaring lion cannot hunt game.
I think what it means is that hunting or searching for anything requires tact. And one of those tactful ways is to keep your silence. Because any noise scares away prey.
Right.
So, yeah.
There it is. There's a way to keep silent about some things. But some of the things that we can't keep silent about are some of the things that we'll be discussing this morning. So thank you for that, because that's true. Maybe in the approach to how to deal with it, but don't make a lot of noise about how you're going to solve the problem as opposed to just solving the problem. Let's start off with what we see as the state of unrest in schools at the moment. 33 students from Taita, Taveta and Kilifi counties were presented before court. And this was as the charge that was brought was that of arson in their schools. And I believe the number of schools that were represented by these 33 students was 12 schools in 2 counties. And they cited several reasons. They didn't shy away. They cited several reasons as to why they, spoke out, or in this case, acted out. They talked about poor state of things in school. They talk about diet being off the chart. They talk about treatment by their teachers, and they talk about the level of teaching and all of this having dropped over time. It seems like it is a drastic move to burn down the school if these measures had not been addressed. But then I start to think, had they spoken about this severally and nobody listened to them? Had it been a thing that was compounding over time and nobody addressed these matters? Was it one bad egg, quote unquote, that brought in an issue? Maybe. But then yesterday we saw that State House Girls also is closed indefinitely because some of these same issues are being brought up. We don't run away from the fact that mocks are about right now, so it could be a pressure point. But it is a situation at the moment. What is causing this unrest from where you sit, and should we take it seriously?
Thank you. We have to take any incident of unrest in school seriously because, one, it endangers children. 2, potentially it could lead to destruction of property that has been accumulated by the school over a long period of time. And 3, it will always put parents in jeopardy because eventually they have to pay, most of the time, pay more than what has been destroyed, which then benefits nobody in the end. But there are very many reasons why these incidents arise. One of those reasons is, and I think we have been speaking about this for a very long time, we have just never done a good job in addressing these incidents when they arise. Why? Because very many factors drive these incidences. One of them is that at this particular point in time, during second term, schools push children a lot. There are a lot of children suffering illnesses that are just coming from too much pressure that is coming from the schools. Children go to bed at 11, they're woken up at 3. To do that every day for a whole term is just not good for anyone. And yet some parents are called to school and told, we want to get the grades. Grades for what? Why would you want your young son or your young daughter to leave school with lifetime ailments because they are trying to get an A? What is in that A that you will want a child to destroy their entire life so as to get an A? So that is one problem. Too much pressure on these learners because people want to get A's. Let's ask ourselves, who benefits from 100% A's in a school? Is it just the principal?
Yeah.
After that, they will sell admissions to the school because now every stupid parent will be running there to say, this is the school that produces A's. For what? I taught in the university, I saw so many students who had scored A's in Form 4 come to university and drop out. Yeah, because they were drilled to get this A's. And when they come to university and there's no one drilling them, they just simply can't cope. Some of them got A's that were beyond their own abilities and have been admitted to courses that are beyond their abilities and beyond their interest. And they just drop out. They get into drugs and they drop out. And then you wonder, how had the parent and the school helped this child by pressuring them? So that is one. The second problem is that in some schools we have cases of mismanagement where children can see that they are being mismanaged. They are sleeping in dirty dormitories. They have bed bugs in their rooms. So you have these few hours to go to bed, and then those few hours you're just fighting with bed bugs. And before you know it, you're being told your time to sleep is up. That level of pressure is not good for anyone, leave alone young people who need to develop. The third reason sometimes is people from outside interfering in the functioning of the school. So you have a school where the community has certain interests inside the school, and they are trying to use young children to fight their wars with the school as an establishment. And so incitement is coming from outside. So what we have always suggested is whenever there is an incident of school unrest, let it be investigated conclusively. And the individuals involved, whether they are learners or they are teachers internally trying to undermine the principal, or it is the principal mismanaging the school, or it is the community from outside who do not want the principal because he or she is trying to do certain things in a way that they don't like, and therefore they're using learners to try and fight the principal. Let the individuals involved be isolated and made responsible. When there is such incidents, a lot of learners don't participate, but their parents are going to pay hefty fines. And sometimes you even wonder whether these unrests are instigated internally to just create an opportunity to exploit parents. Because you see the kinds of figures that emerge, and you wonder how much damage
is it a milking scheme?
Yeah.
But now, Mwalim, I hear that, and I hear the call for more assertion of authority in dealing with characters, wherever they might be coming from the community, the teaching fraternity, or the students, dealing with them firmly and decisively to deter such behavior. Unfortunately, when that deterrent is being effected, damage has already been done.
Yeah.
If kids were being mistreated, they have suffered. If they had to share their sleeping time with the bed bugs, they have shared the time. among many other, situations we can use as examples. The damage has already happened. Then some of these damages, if I may call them so, have a longer lasting effect and impact on the child. It is my opinion that schools are supposed to be run purely on the interest of the child. When that is not happening, and we have the check-off systems, because we have all these officers, who are supposed to make sure there is compliance, there is regulation, there's strict observance of both morals, values, principles are happening. These people get paid to do their job, but clearly they are not doing their job. I want to compare a school setup with a military barracks. There are no lapses in a military barracks. You cannot infiltrate, whether you are a community that lives around there. There is more order. How is it that we have relegated schools from being that shrine, that higher moral standard that everybody knew that this is a learning facility, where even teachers were looked upon in the community as points of good morals and better values? How have we managed to relegate such a critical function of government, because it's a public good that is supposed to be equitably distributed to all? How have we managed to get comfortable in relegating it so much that now we start discussing on how to manage unrest? It's as if we know they're going to happen, they should happen. Yet we know there are mitigative measures we can take and employ to make sure that we have a more peaceful coexistence in that education sector. How have we gotten here?
Part of why we've gotten here is because we have reduced schools into factories of some sort. So they are supposed to manufacture. These workers will come out of there with certain skills and certain capacities to be trained to become workers in certain fields. Schools, and most of our schools here were founded by faith-based organizations. They were supposed to be formation centers, so that they are focused on whole child development. You're focused on when this child grows, because they are going to spend most of their childhood and youth time in these schools. And therefore they will be forming their characters while in the school. When they come out of school, which kind of people are going to come out? Not which kinds of grades they will have scored, because grades are supposed to be a small component of what one gets out of a school system. They are there at their most critical time. They should come out of there having formed certain character. To form that character is not something that you are ordered around and told you must behave, you must behave. It means that the school community must provide role modeling for these young people. The teachers must be their role models, the people they want to look up to, so that they are learning by seeing what is being done in school. If you are the teacher, you are coming to class on time, you are delivering your curriculum assignment as required. You have time to listen to these young people when they come to you and say, we have a problem. Many of the times, those opportunities are not there. Sometimes because either the teachers are overstretched, they're too few, they have too many learners to deal with and they're overstretched, or because some of the teachers simply don't care. And because they don't care, these young people have a lot of pent-up pressure and anger that starts to develop in them. Some of them start to see themselves as wasting their time and even wasting their parents' money, because you're being asked money for this, for that other thing, for that other thing, and you don't even think you're being given an opportunity to use your time in school to develop yourself and to create a livelihood pathway for yourself. And you start to wonder whether you're doing the right thing by being in school. In the past, we issued threats and said we will expel children who ban schools and never have them admitted anywhere else. There are young people in the schools who are wanting out
of the system. They don't want to discontinue.
They want to be out because they don't think they being in school is adding value to their lives. So you tell them, we will expel you. They actually want that. You have given them a motivation to want to burn down the school so that they can be expelled. And I don't think a school system exists to expel learners. You are expelling them from school to where? To society. Yeah. How do you want to live with them in society when they haven't gotten the opportunity to be
to mold character
and to have their characters molded? So I think that we need to revisit the moral foundations of our school. And then the moral foundation was that these are formation centers that must focus on whole child development and not focus on grades.
And now when we fast forward, because again, the grading system was supposed to be cured or retired by the CBC. So I would ask, since now we're not striving for an A, as it were in the past, you're just looking at, meet expectations, below expectation, more or less a grading system, but it's supposed to ease off the pressure from the learners. Is that happening? Is it easing off the pressure, the performance pressure?
It is not. That was the aspiration of CBE. We haven't done well in actualizing that aspiration. We haven't done well because we have failed the junior school.
Yeah.
And the junior school was the place where we were supposed to have the child, the learner, and the teachers work together to identify pathways for these children. So by the time they are exiting from grade 9, there is no competition in who goes to which school, which senior school.
Yep.
Because the pathways should have been identified and agreed on by the three important parties, the teacher, the child, and the parent.
The parent, yeah.
We have failed junior school miserably. So junior school is incapable, as it is now, to be able to guide the child. And that's why we are in second term. If you ask the principals of senior school, they will tell you a lot of grade 10 learners are still switching between pathways.
Yes.
Even now, as we speak. Wow.
Yes. The reason they're doing that is because they found themselves in a pathway they were never prepared for. Junior school was not able to prepare them, so they just landed there. Because of that confusion, we are going to see even more intensified clamor for EE grade, exceeding expectations in the coming grade 9 exit. And that is undoing what we set out to achieve with CBE.
With CBE.
And all is not lost. I think we have time to reinvest a lot of effort in junior school as one thing. And if we do that, that is going to help junior school to be the place where children's pathways are properly identified and children get proper guidance.
Who is supposed to be giving this guidance?
The guidance is supposed to be happening to be done by the teacher and the parent in consultation with the child. So you're looking at the child, what area they are excelling in. We have children who are excelling in everything. You are looking at what are they interested in beyond what they are excelling in, because you do best what you are interested in. That is what you commit your energies and time to. So for those who are excelling in everything, where are their interests? Those who are not excelling in everything, what are they excelling in? And you're talking to the parents to be able to guide these young people so that by the time they're in grade 8, grade 9, they know that I am best talented in this area. And so going to senior school, this is where I am going. And that will be very useful. We have an aspiration to have 60% transition to STEM, which is a good national aspiration. We need to make junior schools capable of providing a fair opportunity for learners to test themselves and see if they are actually capable of excelling in STEM. As it is now, we don't have what we need there for these learners to test themselves, to be able to be confident that they can transition to a STEM pathway in senior school and excel. So some have transitioned to STEM, but they are now switching because they realize they have a very weak foundation in STEM.
Yeah.
They realize if they pursue that pathway, they will not be able to go far.
And now, back to the unrest, because you see, the school is an agent of socialization. As you said, kids spend a lot of time, primarily so, at the school. But there is also the societal or communal aspect, because the school also exists in this community. Today, when you look around the country, there is a lot of unrest. There is a lot of pushback. There is a lot of resistance against systems, against authority, against administration, for one reason or the other. And these kids, they live in our homes, where we are talking about the dissatisfaction we have against whatever authority, be it at workplace, be it the government, whatever it is. And they pick. Because even these performances that were banned, the theatre, the poems and all that, they're also based on the mood of the country at that moment, of the community at that given moment in time. So is there a correlation today, from where you stand, between the conduct of the schools, in regard to the unrest, and what is happening in our Kenyan society?
First of all, being restless in itself is not a bad thing. It is a sign that we are developing.
Right.
Societies that are docile and quiet are generally underdeveloped societies, and still going to be underdeveloped for a long time. Societies progress when they question everything. They show disaffection with what exists, and push those who have responsibilities to invent, to innovate, and come up with new things, new ways of doing things. That's why, if you look at, for example, mobile telephony, users of mobile telephones are restless most of the time. And so the mobile telephony industry is having to innovate continuously, because what you have produced today as the top of the range, in 3 months is no longer top of the range, and users are moving on. If you do not continue innovating, you have lost your market share. That is how societies move forward. The problem is, how do we present our disaffection with issues?
Exactly.
We have cases of parents who go to schools and abuse teachers right in front of their children. Yeah. When you do that, what have you taught the child? Yeah. To disrespect that teacher. And when they disrespect the authority in school, we see the kinds of violent unrests that we see. Yeah. So how we express our disaffection and resolve the issue that we confront is the problem. But being restless is a good thing. If you look at this region, Kenyans are more restless than other people in the region. And why? Because Kenya is ahead in development over other regions and over other countries in the region. So the people are pushing those in authority, and not just in authority in form of government, but even those running our corporate sector are under pressure. The kind of pressure that we exact on Kenya Power when we have a power outage is not what you find in some of our neighboring countries. Because we want more, we want better, and it is fine. And it is okay that children in schools put pressure on the managers of the schools and say, this school can run better. We can have water running on the tap every day. We don't have to have water today and not tomorrow, and the next day not the day after.
It can be every day.
They have a right to put that pressure. The challenge is, how do we express that? And do we open channels through which disaffection can be expressed without reprisal? Because the moment those channels for expression of disaffection are closed, then you push them underground, and what brews underground will only come to the surface as a fire.
Unrest whereby somebody starting a fire is talked to a psychologist friend of mine, and she said that even when you see somebody lashing out, that's a cry for help. They're telling you that something is wrong. Not only are they sending out an alarm, but they're also telling you that they have said this to you before, but you have not heeded the call. So there's a repetition that has taken place that has not been heeded. And so this that you see is actually the last act. But they've spoken, they've communicated, they've said something before that you've not dealt with. So the fire is a symptom. The breaking down is a symptom. The shouting is a symptom. Are we dealing with the problem? There are some numbers that bother us, Daktari. And this is 2026 that we're looking at these numbers. Now, I just want to share some of those with you. Junior secondary school has emerged as the epicenter of teenage pregnancies among school-going girls in Kenya, accounting for 60% of all pregnant learners. This is May 2026. This is not last year's. This, and we're not even done with May. This is May 2026. Now, data from the 2026 economic survey, a Kenya economic survey, and the recent Ministry of Education studies reveal that a total adolescent pregnancy cases in the country rose from 224,333 to 235,938, with a critical 14.6% spike among very young girls aged 10 to 14. So, if we are sending out almost 1 million children every year to the next class kind of thing, what are we saying here? A fifth of that number has been pregnant and is or about to be out of school for however long it takes for them to have this baby and start to give it critical care in the first 3 months, and are not going to school. This is a crazy high number. And when we started seeing numbers like this, it was around COVID time. And so we all kind of said, okay, well, it's COVID. People are not in school. They're frustrated. Okay. No, the number has even risen now. What?
So many issues involved that are responsible for this. Partly when you have children intermittently in school. So in and out of school, mostly because of lack of fees. If you walk across this country on a school day, you will still see a lot of uniforms on the road during school time.
Yeah.
And the reason being that a lot of these children are walking to school and walking back home because of they haven't paid this, they haven't paid that other thing. When that happens, children are not safe in between home and school. So in our own survey, we saw that majority of the secondary school learners who are affected by teenage pregnancy are those in day schools, not those in boarding schools. Because for most boarding schools, they have these strict protocols on when you come to school, when you leave school, who can visit you in school and who cannot. Now, those who are day scholars who have to commute every day to and from school, there is a whole lot that goes on in between home and school. And that accounts for their number being that high. There is another aspect to it. The other aspect to it being that, again, from our data, what we saw, that a girl in a cluster 4 school was 10 times more likely to be affected by teenage pregnancy compared to a girl in cluster 1 school.
Yeah.
What is the difference? The difference is that cluster 1 schools generally get most of their learners to qualify to go to university after Form 4.
Okay.
So the hope that the children in cluster 4 schools have is not the same as the hope that children in cluster 1 schools have.
Yeah.
That difference in itself determines how much these children commit to pursuing a future through education. Because this is a decision to say, I'll put everything else aside to focus on education because it is a promise for a better future, or that even if I put everything aside and focused on education, it does not promise me a better future. And you get diverted by those fellows you interact with along the way, the riders who take them to school sometimes, the people who offer them money for lunch because the family can't provide, start to distract them. They start to think that these individuals could actually give me a pathway to a better life than the school.
These are 10-year-olds. These are 10.
Yes.
The numbers that we are looking at here, Doc, are 10 to 14. These
Yes.
are they're babies.
In this country, we have parts of this country where girls as young as 7 are betrothed to get married when they turn 14. The parents have even received partial dowry at age 7, 8. Yeah. So it shouldn't surprise.
No,
It shouldn't. It should.
does,
It should.
actually.
I mean, we're doing stories. I've done stories where you go and you sit and people tell you about the horrors of having to live in an existence where the only promise of food is to essentially sell your 8-9-year-old daughter because you will then maybe get food for the next 6 months. I've seen those, but I think that it should leave us in a state of chagrin that when things like this continuously happen and we don't seem to then be able to pay attention to those things, but focus on some other rubbish that really doesn't matter, when children are essentially being sacrificed at the altar of things like politics.
So the biggest problem that we have, I think, as a society, is that we haven't understood one basic principle, that children don't belong to parents.
They're just custodians.
Children belong to this country and to the society, and that we all have an obligation to make sure that every child gets a quality education. Why? Because a child who gets a good quality education will contribute to this society for the benefit of everyone. Some of the parents, we are saying, the father has not done this, the mother has not done this, will be long dead, they will not be there. And these children are just going to be adults who either serve and benefit the rest of the society, or who may have a lot of grievances against society and may actually turn out to hurt society. Their parents won't be there.
Let me ask, Mwalimu, because it's appalling that we can find comfort in saying that due to the levels of poverty or collapse of our societal order in whatever community we belong to, that it is almost acceptable that underage kids will be denied their right to school, to education, and they'll be exposed to adult activities. For me, I cannot wrap my head around that, because every state ought to secure, that's the word, its citizens. And the number one order is the young ones. Before everything you hear is about children, women, vulnerable. It begins with the young ones. The number one protection we can offer is providing facilities and structures where these kids spend a lot of their time. Facilities need to be conducive enough to allow them to grow and to develop. But we seem to be admitting and finding comfort that, yes, that has collapsed, so we should not be surprised when the consequences are so active. I think if somebody can defend when we say we have a failed country, I would want them to prove why. I would want them to back up, because I strongly feel that if we truly cannot take care of our 11 million school-going kids or thereabout, we have no business saying that this government is working for anyone. Their job cannot be just collecting taxes and trying to justify budgets that we clearly cannot see the impact. We are talking about young girls getting pregnant underage, courtesy of, in this case, a failed education system, that there are not enough safeguards. We also seem to, and I would want to hear opinion on this, what you think about the role of private schools in collapsing the public school system. Because I hold the opinion that if we focused more on improving our public schools than abdicating that duty to the private sector, perhaps we'd have more functional education system. What's your opinion on that?
Now, let me start by saying this. Kenya is making an effort. If you compare in the region.
No, we don't.
Maybe it is wrong to compare.
Yeah,
in the
it
region.
is very wrong.
But even if we compare to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in class 8, we were 38 of us in class. Out of those 38, only 11 transitioned to Form 1.
Mm-hmm.
So the transition rate, even then, was horribly low. We have done well on improving the transition rates. Our transition rates right now are much better. Of course, they're not what the government is saying, but they're better than what they were some years back. We are improving. We are improving too slowly for my liking. We could improve faster, but we are improving. Sometimes it's good to celebrate those small things. Second thing that I need to mention that is also important is the role of the private sector in complementing public sector. Why? Because on an ideal situation, it should have been possible for the government to say, these children can pay and these children can't pay. And so the public is going to pay for these children who can pay, and these ones who can pay should pay and be in public schools. Because that mechanism is difficult to derive, and we don't like doing the difficult things many times. We have allowed the private school sector to offload those who can pay from the public system. So they are paying. They remain Kenyan children, whom we owe a duty to a free and compulsory quality basic education as enshrined in our constitution. But their parents are taking that responsibility, and the government is not supporting those children. In a way, they are being offloaded from the public system. Ideally, should enable the government to offer better quality to those who remain in the public system, because the numbers have been reduced. That 23-24% of the children in this country are in private schools. That offloads responsibility from the public education system. We should take that opportunity to improve the quality that is there in the public school, because now we are not shouldering responsibility for all these other almost quarter of the children, to make the quality in public school, especially primary, because when we get to secondary, the best schools are public. But primary, to improve that quality, because foundational learning is the most important part of learning. If you can learn how to learn at the foundational level, you are capable of going anywhere and attaining any heights in education, even on your own. In this era of internet and a lot of information, you can self-educate if you have a strong foundation. So for me, yes, there are elements where the private school system has been used to undermine the public, but it is not entirely evil. We can actually take advantage of its existence and the willingness of some parents to put their children in the private school system, to say, this quarter has now been taken off public coffers. Let us utilize what remains to make sure that the 3 quarters who have remained in the public system are getting equal or even better quality education than those who have gone to the private. Because today we said, let's close all the private schools. The public school system will not be able to carry, because we are seeing high levels of congestion in public schools, even when a significant number is still in the private.
Yeah.
So if we were to close the private, the public will be entirely overwhelmed. And so for me, there is need for very good thinking around that. Yeah.
I'm still very concerned about the number here, because these girls who are 10 to 14, 7 to 10, they are in lower primary. I mean, they're in primary.
Yeah, they're in primary.
They're in primary. Yeah. They're not at the. We're looking at learners who get into JSS, getting into JSS at.
They're supposed to get into JSS at 12.
At 12, yeah. Right? So the majority of the children who are getting pregnant are in primary school. Yeah. So there's a foundational problem here. There's also it sounds nice to throw blame, but everybody's complicit here. Yeah. From a school system to parents. What is happening with parents in homes, and we need to understand what's happening also with where it is okay for a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old. Where are they when this act is being performed that leads to pregnancy? What are they doing? Where are they?
I was home sometime before Christmas. And for some reason, I was out very late, past midnight. I had some friends visiting. We sat, talked up to very late, and I was dropping off some of them past midnight. And I am meeting these kids who look like 12, 13, boys and girls, walking, going to disco matangas.
Alone?
Yes. Past midnight. And I'm asking myself, so where are the parents? Because they have come from some home.
Yes.
Where is the parent? Does the parent know that their 12, 13-year-old daughter
outside.
Is on the road past midnight?
And why is that okay if you figure it out and she comes back and says, and you ask where was she? I mean, we could look into the nitty-gritty of the detail here, but then this is the national psyche that we talk about. That why is it then okay? I mean, what on earth could be a justifiable reason when you come and tell your mother as a 12-year-old or your father that I was out at midnight in the company of whomever else, that this was okay? So I do think that there has been we've let down on how we and it doesn't matter the social strata that we talk about, whether you have a coin or whether you have a million of them, that there's a very basic that's being asked for here. Because then I want to ask, do you not know where your daughter is who while she's off getting pregnant? Do you not know where she is? Do you not know what she's doing? And it is not a bourgeois question. It is a parental guidance question.
Yeah.
And then, who is getting these girls pregnant? Who is it? Who is it? The rider in the city, in the town? Is it who is getting these children pregnant? Because we're gonna have some difficult conversations where you have to ask questions, Dr. Manyasa, like, okay, if there is an attraction to a child, there is something wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because the numbers that we are talking are not 2,000. They're not 10,000. They're not 20,000. Yeah. They're not 50,000. They're not 100,000. There are 235,000 girls in 2026 between the age of 10 and 14 that are pregnant and out of school. If that doesn't make somebody turn on the heels and say, stop the truck, then there's a problem.
There's a problem, and there are many problems. Right now, there is a conversation happening within the judicial service corridors and saying we need to relook at the Sexual Offenders Act. Relook at the Sexual Offenders Act with two goals in mind. Make it sufficiently deterrent to the behavior that allows adults to violate children. The opportunities for adults to violate children. And then look at it with a kind of eye to young boys. Because some of these teenage girls are actually made pregnant by fellow teenage boys.
Yes.
And we have a lot of teenage boys now incarcerated for that reason. And the question is, at what point do we start to say, both of these people are children. For them to have done this, the failure was not their own.
Mm-hmm.
That failure existed somewhere else. And we deal with that somewhere else where this failure is coming from. So that is one perspective. The other perspective is that we have a lot of people, and very recently there was even an attempt to push that to some level of political rhetoric. Or people who walk out here and say, I didn't go to school, but I have money. What is going to school? Yeah. And it was becoming a loud noise. And sometimes I feel that intelligent people tend to be too timid sometimes. And they don't push back on these kinds of talk, because this kind of talk has very strong negative signaling effect on young impressionable minds. To think that what is important is money, and it doesn't matter how you get it, you don't need to go to school.
Yeah.
Now, I sit down and ask myself many times, so when you have gotten this money, what do you do with it? Yeah. You just want to go and buy something that you think is good, made by the educated.
Made by the educated. But
You steal some of this money, you start running from your own shadow, you go pay an educated lawyer to defend you. It is legitimate income to the lawyer. They will eat and sleep in their house because it is legitimate.
Yeah.
You stole it, it is illegitimate. You are running even from your own shadow because you didn't have a brain.
So there is a question of morals.
Yeah.
But further is that now, like you said, the schools were meant to be formation centers. So young girls are being neglected by us as a community, whether it is the failure of the education system or our home values, where young kids are going to disco matangas. Whether they are going to look for their parents in those disco matangas or not, we don't know. Or why they find it, morally upright to leave home and go, because, kids would be scared to leave home if they know there's an authority at home. That's also something to think on. But also there is a high prevalence on substance abuse, because the same has been highly domesticated. You find the parents in the communities. We have relaxed, or rather not limited exposure of some of the mannerisms that children should not be learning from. And yet we expect them when they go to school, they should be behaving differently. How do we improve on knowing that the first learning center is the home setup before they go to the school? That the first teachers we have is we, the parents, we, the community who live with the kids before they send them to school. And they can only take the behavior they are learning from here to the school. How do we improve on that?
So for me, and that's why I said there are failures on multiple levels. There's a failure in our families that is actually exposing children to things they should not be exposed to. There is a level of negligence in some cases, so that the parent is lax. They don't care whether the child is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Some of them are even happy when a girl gets pregnant because now they have an excuse. I can't pay fees. And government is implementing the return to school policy. That is starting to improve the return to school rates. In the last survey we did, it is now 51% of girls who get pregnant are returning to school. So there is a policy that is trying to improve that. But there are parents who, actually, one of the challenges when we spoke to principals, they said we have totally unsupportive parents. They are not willing. Some stop to pay fees and they say, aenda olewe.
Oh, wow.
So some of them even think it is a good thing. They are now relieved. They won't have to pay fees. So we have failure there. We pride ourselves as being heavily religious society. Are we living our religious values? There is no reflection of that when you see what is happening in our families and happening in our public space. There is a failure on that front.
Okay.
That needs to be addressed.
Thank you.
It's tough questions and it's hard ones that we have to, because it affects whatever we want to see as foundational pillars in society. And that's why it's important for us to have the conversations. It's not noise making. Yeah. It's necessary for us to highlight. Thank you for doing this with us this morning. Executive Director of the Usawa Agenda, Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa. Asante.
Asante sana.
For everybody who has been here this morning, thank you for being part of the situation. It was a tough one today to look through some of these issues, but necessary for us to do, Joe. Talk soon. Asante sana. Yes. Good morning, everybody.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.